In today's video, we'll be talking about the signs on Jeffrey Epstein's face that point to disharmonies in relation to enjoyment, the red flags indicating severe leakage in his life force, as well as the dominance of his emotional and instinctual nature. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we've got Jeffrey Epstein. And if you are new to the channel and you haven't seen a face reading video, please go down to the description box, watch the 5-minute crash course video on face reading. That will give you some terms and lexicon, what face reading is, what it isn't. And if you are enjoying my content, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, share this with someone you think might find it interesting because it helps my channel grow. I greatly appreciate it. So let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein. This is a contradictory read. So I broke this down into 4 sections. I typically don't take notes, but because of this contradictory nature and the complexity of his face and his life terrain, I made some notes. 4 sections we're going to go through. The quote-unquote lucky features, and I don't like saying that, but he has some features that, these features on a better soul, a better Shen, I would say good, but given who he was, not good. So we're going to talk about his auspicious or lucky features. We're going to talk about the major leaks that you can see in his face. Face doesn't lie. He was also leaking severely. The other one is the 3 zones, breaking the face into 3 sections, which we have not talked about in a face reading video up until now, so that'll be something new. And then we're going to talk about his Shen and the components around that are not good either. So his lucky features, he's got a broad forehead. The broad forehead is indicative of the mind. So he had a big square broad forehead. He also had connected forehead lines, meaning broad intellect. The connected lines mean he can cohesively string his thoughts and words together. With a guy like this, that's not great. But when you think about his influence of power, who he was connected to, that's not great. And for those of you who don't know, if you were living under a rock, Jeffrey Epstein was incarcerated for the sex trafficking of minors at scale, and the involvement of very high-profile people, politicians, political figures, lots of things. And it looks like he was blackmailing people, and that's part of why he was quote-unquote suicided. And for the record, I don't think this guy was suicided. I think he is one of the legitimate conspiracies of our time. I think he was taken out, and there's lots of evidence to support that. So, in any case, he also has smile lines. So my teacher, Lillian Bridges, the late Lillian Pearl Bridges, she didn't like the term crow's feet, but like when you smile, you see how I get these wrinkles right here? These are lucky in face reading. They are joy lines. That's what Lillian used to call them. She used to like calling them joy lines, not crow's feet. The joy lines mean that you are enjoying what you're doing in life. And when we have a joyous heart, we are positive about what we're doing and we feel good about it. That's a good sign. It's going to increase our life force. But this guy, given that we all know what he was doing, that means that he was enjoying his life. He was enjoying what he was doing. That is spooky as all hell to me. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. So he had smile lines, not auspicious on a spirit like this. He also had purpose lines. So from the nasolabial groove right here, these get carved out as we get older. Yes, but as these get more deeply carved, someone does their activities in life with purpose. They feel they have purpose. You'd be amazed. I was amazed. I've been amazed when I'm working with very old people who don't know what they wanted to do with their life, and these are very, very faint. They're not carved in. It's kind of interesting to find these parallels. It's not always the case, but often it is. His are very deep, and they're almost carved in a way where he was purposeful in what he was doing and felt aligned with it, according to his face. Now, where he was leaking, major leaks. Quick little bit of channel theory. All of this stuff is based off of channel theory. So there's a channel called the do channel. It starts in the sacrum area, goes up the spine, over the top of the head, and right about the upper lip here, it converts into the Ren channel called the conception vessel. It goes down the front, through the sex organs, through the pelvic floor, and then connects back up to the do channel. The do channel is known as the governing vessel. Now, in acupuncture theory, how this engine runs, up the front and down the back, dictates the quality and intensity of the other 12 organ systems. So basically, how well this up the back and down the front system is going, up the do and down the Ren, how well that is working is how much available energy you have to all of your other organ systems. This central line along the face is called the river of life. It's very important. So in the context of face reading, we want to pay attention to things that happen down this center line. Quick side note too, for any people out there that have been around a pregnant mom, and my wife, when she was pregnant, women will get a vertical line, typically from their belly button down to the pubic bone, and it gets dark. It's like this dark line along the spine. Western doctors, I've been in the room when I've asked them this, what's that? Secretly kind of setting them up. I know what that is, but I've asked them, what is that? Oh, I don't know. It's a thing that happens with women. That's the Ren channel. It's called the conception vessel. And when women have child and they are gestating a child, that channel engorges, and that's why we get that dark line. So Chinese medicine, it's like no-brainer. Like, yeah, the Ren channel, the conception vessel. Cool. So anyway, quick side note on that. Back to his face, the river of life. There are some red flags in face reading. Whenever we see a deeply carved line right along the central line of the face, or very close to it, it's what they call a hanging dagger. It's not good. Or a flying sword. There's a couple different ways to think about it, but it's not good. When we see any kind of cross horizontal line that's deeply grooved, or a vertical one along this river of life, it means there's a conflict with how the Jing is being expressed. How the person is wielding their life force is problematic. Something is being depleted heavily. And he's got this. If you look at this mark right across many of his pictures, deeply carved into his face. It stands out. It's very, very prominent. It's like a scar or like a wound. And so, again, conflict with how he was expressing his life force makes a certain amount of sense given who this guy was. He's also got the one here, right across the top of the bridge of the nose. This is in relation to diet. So if someone has an emotional relationship with food, they eat their feelings, or they're a sugar addict, or they gorge themselves in some capacity, and they are sort of a quote-unquote fat kid with their food tendencies, that line can show up. And the more deeply grooved it is, the longer standing that pattern has been. So it looks like he had that. But that's a red flag. Like, we got to check that. Like, what are you doing? He's also got this one right at the mid-chin area. This is a marker for lifestyle depletion. So the last one, the other red flag, is the one that shows up right here. And that's a problem with respiration and breathing, how we are engaging the breath of life. He doesn't have that one, but he's got 3 out of the 4 along the river of life. That's like ding, 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 alarm, alarm. If I didn't know who this guy was and I was working with him, I would be probing very deeply, like, what the hell do you do? And how long are you working? And what are you doing? And are you screwing people over? Are you taking advantage? Something here in the Jing is getting really, really depleted. So the face doesn't lie. He's got these marks. Now, the other thing is the 3 zones. Okay, so we have to break the face into 3 sections. We haven't talked about this. From where the hairline starts, okay, right here. Where the hairline starts to the tops of the eyebrows, or to the eyebrows, this is the mental sphere. And we're looking at the distance, the distance from here to here, okay, this distance. The next distance is the practical part of life, how pragmatic we are in the earth world. From the eyebrows to the bottom of the nose, the length there. The last one is from the nose down to the bottom of the chin, that length. That deals with emotionality and instincts. Jeffrey Epstein has a very bottom-heavy face, very long on the bottom. So what that means is he was run by his emotions and his instincts, and it's very dominant. His practical side, the pragmatic side of him, not so much. The mental sphere, moderately big. So in order of importance, lots of emotionality and instincts, not much pragmatism, and a pretty rangy mind. That's not great. That means if we think about his dynamics with blackmailing and getting people into very bad positions and using things against him, all of that is like emotional manipulation. It's very, very dominant in his face. I mean, I was looking at it, I thought, wow, quite a bit. So the other thing is, we've talked about this, he's also got a rectangular shaped face. He's got this basic rectangle. So if we think about a tree growing up vertically this way, right? And we just take that, a snapshot of that, that is a rectangle. It's the wood energy. It relates to sex drive. It relates to authority and power and driving your force into the world. He's got a lot of this. And so when we see this all mixed together, this is not a good thing. This is kind of like a perfect storm. He also has a shapely mouth. He's got the Cupid's bow. He's got the small upturned edges at the end. And his lips are well formed, but not excessively big. And what this points to is a balanced relationship to pleasure, which again, it's like a healthy earth mouth, which means there's an enjoyment in what the person is doing. And you overlay that onto his background, his record, who he was. Again, I get the heebie-jeebies when I think about this. These are technically positive features in the context of the larger big picture, but the soul, the Shen, is out of whack. Let's talk about his Shen as we go into this part. Anytime a person smiles, when a person gives a full smile and they're laughing really hard and everything wrinkles up, you get to see the full anima of the spirit. You're getting to see the fire element full tilt, fully expressed, like just boom, all the way out, beaming from the face. That's the fire. That's how you assess the spirit. You really have to see them stoic to get sort of the spirit at rest, and then them smiling, the spirit active. So I started looking for pictures of Jeffrey Epstein when he was smiling fully. There were only a few, and when I found them, I shuddered. I thought, ooh, boy, there's something so wrong with that smile. There's something maniacal about it, and specifically, it triggered a memory of the Joker. I want you to look at this picture of Jeffrey Epstein and a random picture I found of the Joker. I ask you this, why is it that the Joker's face is not plump? Why doesn't the Joker have warm eyes? Why doesn't he have a soft chin? We instinctively draw and create in art characters with pointy features because we know there's an association deep down to something dangerous about it. Jeffrey Epstein has this when he smiles. There's something pointy and dangerous about that smile. I don't like it. I don't care if I knew who he was or not. That smile makes me nervous. Now, people might say, like, what the hell, Grace? So what? He looks like the Joker. The Joker is fictitious. The thing you have to remember about reading Shen is that art and life imitate each other. That is absolutely true. And connection to art is about the symbolic and the archetypes and the abstract. We can all look at a painting, feel something different, and there's no one right answer. So there's this very abstract kind of formless thing that happens with artwork. And when we see symbols in art about characters like this, and we have an association with a piece of art, and we see that imitated in life, that is very real. Just a quick side tangent here. I'm a comic book nerd. I love Superman. I love the Avengers. I love X-Men. I spent many of my formative years as a kid drawing. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I still love to draw. I'm pretty good at it too. I love drawing. That's a modern representation of people just creating characters, right? Creating artwork. This ties to Jeffrey Epstein's face, so bear with me here. When I started studying Eastern medicine, a living tradition, a living art about life and living, when I started studying the 5 elements, I was struck with how much of the 5-element theory directly overlaid onto the characters in the Marvel Universe. One such example, the wood element regulates the liver. The liver regulates rage and anger. The wood element and the liver also regulate the sinews and the connective tissue. And the color associated with it is green. Now, if you scan the Marvel Universe for a second, is there any character that is green, has very strong connective tissue, and is full of rage? If you haven't figured it out, the Incredible Hulk. Here's a guy, a regular guy, who when he gets angry and when he gets full of rage, and the more rageful he gets, the stronger he gets, he has an explosive response in his connective tissue. He expands and turns bright green. Now, I promise you, whoever invented the Hulk, dollars to donuts, probably was not reading Eastern philosophy and thought, oh, I'll make a character about the wood element. I doubt that. Art and symbolism and the subconscious, these rhythms tune in. I think we picked them up. Carl Jung talked about this quite a bit, the collective unconscious. He started to notice that many of his clients were all dreaming about sinking ships, and they had all recently lost someone in their life. Someone had died. And he had this notion that there's a collective unconscious symbolic world that we either dream into or we connect to. They talk about this in the context of psychedelics, people seeing the same entities on a DMT trip. It looks like human consciousness is not bound to our body, and the connection into the symbolic, into art, is relevant. It's so important. I think the more well-versed you are in art and artistic ideas, the better you read Shen, for what it's worth, if you ever decide to do some face reading. So when I saw this, I thought, looks like the Joker. I'll take it, because he does, and it's the same vibe and it's the same feeling. So looking at his natural face, his public persona and his inner persona, I thought this was off. I thought this has got to be wrong. I found 3 other pictures of him frontal and did the same thing, mirrored the images, same result. His public persona is a bit wider, which means in the public sphere, public relations, socializing, schmoozing, well equipped for it. His inner persona is highly wood. It's highly narrow, highly focused, very narrow, which means an exacerbated or stronger leaning towards sexual urges, right? It's that wood energy, which the liver channel wraps around the sex organs. So that his eyes are also very close set. Now, the closer set the eyes, the thinking is, the more capacity for predatory tendencies can be present. Why is that? We have to, again, look at 5-element theory and classical Eastern philosophy. That theory states that man, humanity, we are an intermediary between the forces of heaven and earth. We're a synergy of those energies coming together, but we are a part of the animal kingdom. We are mammals. Now, if we look at animals, predators, they have frontal-facing vision. The eagle, the tiger, the bear, frontal vision. Why? Because they are doing this in their environments to track down and kill prey. Human beings also have frontal set eyes. We've been taking out animals and killing them for sustenance since the beginning. Now, if you look at the herbivores, You look at the animals like the horse, the cow, the giraffe, they have wider set eyes. The goat, their eyes are wider set. Why? Because they have to track their peripheral space for predators. So the basic thinking is form and function relate. The universe is holographic. It is fractal and repetitive. And when we see patterns in the natural world, in the animal kingdom, and you see very close set eyes on the interpersonal nature of a person, be careful. There's a tendency for them to be predatory. Doesn't mean they will be, but the door is open for them to be. They might just be really analytical and good with numbers. Cool. The other features might balance it out. But you put those eyes on this inner persona right there, that is a serious problem. Now, in terms of lifestyle remediation, I would never work with a guy like Jeffrey Epstein out of principle. But if I were to take a stab and say, okay, the way to remediate this guy, to help him in some way, would be through very strong dosage of psychedelics under shamanistic supervision. I'm talking about going to the jungle in Peru with real shamans and having him stay there for weeks or months of him doing ceremonies with professionals, with people who have been seasoned in doing it their whole lives, to unearth the darkness inside. When we are this conflicted with, and we are so far, misaligned with good, and we are doing things that are hurting people and causing this much damage in the world, that is a serious disturbance in the Shen. They call it Shen disturbance, spirit disturbance in Eastern medicine. That's what Jeffrey Epstein is. He is a man that is Shen disturbed. And I think he would need to spend time in that abstract, emotional, intuitive space of the psychedelic world, where time is formless, where he would be confronted with his own shadow and having to integrate it and to hopefully find some semblance of peace and resolution. I don't know if it would happen, but that would be my best guess. We all approach these things differently. I don't think talk therapy would get Jeffrey Epstein out of this, given his face and given what he was doing at scale. I don't think, some ho-hum court-appointed courses would be the thing for this guy. This guy needs a spiritual overhaul, big time. So that's what I would say for Jeffrey Epstein. If you got questions, please let me know. Comments, put them in the comment box below. If there's someone else you'd like me to read, please let me know. Thanks.